in a slower market with more inventory, even if you get an offer from someone that maybe you don't have the best feeling, it's kind of like, well, it's worth taking the risk on this because this is the only thing that exists right now.
Welcome to the Tom Storey Show with Steve Karrasch and Tom Storey, where we discuss everything real estate or whatever else is on our minds.
Usually about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. Yeah. All right, Steve, we're recording now.
Uh-oh. Our guest isn't even here and you're already recording.
Yeah, that's all right. Welcome back to the Tom Storey Show. We appreciate you being here. Very happily sponsored by Realty Ninja. This week's guest is Justin Little. He works with ReMax Escarpment Realty, servicing the Hamilton and Stony Creek area. Also, freshly shaved head for today's podcast. And we're trying to encourage Steve to do the same for next week. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. And I definitely encourage Steve giving this a go, right? At least starting with the mustache and then moving up from there.
For God's sakes, at least get rid of the mustache.
I didn't realize he was a year-round mustache guy. I thought it might have just been a Movember thing, but here he is rocking it.
I don't know.
Giving it a go. I'm thinking maybe full body wax next week. What do you think?
There you
Kelly
go.
Clarkson. All right, well, Justin, welcome to the show. I mean, we've known each other for quite a while now, and I feel like this has been a long time in the making to get you on the show. So first of all, welcome, and thanks for being here.
I appreciate it. It has been a long time coming. You know, I've been, basically I just do whatever you guys do on YouTube and just duplicate it in Hamilton. So
there's your first mistake.
I feel like it's just been like a circle, you know, but now we're actually doing something together, which is cool.
Which is awesome. So primarily working in Hamilton, kind of Stony Creek area. And for those that don't know, that's what probably, I guess with traffic these days, an hour and a bit outside Toronto. It's kind of changed over the last few years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's changed dramatically. Like we have, like people come and they look at houses on evenings and weekends, or well, mostly weekends from the GTA, and they're like, oh, it's only about an hour. And then they realize their first commute that it's closer. It's actually probably closer to 2 now. Like,
is it really?
Just to get to the other end of Burlington the other morning. I actually went to an RI thing the other. It took me an hour to get from Hamilton to basically the furthest end of Burlington, almost Oakville.
That is crazy.
Traffic's building up.
That is nuts. Well, who are the buyers in Hamilton right now? Maybe we'll just start there. Like, is it still the our clients leaving, coming up and buying your properties because they don't want to buy a condo here, they'd rather buy a house out there? Is that still happening?
It does happen. It doesn't happen as much as it did during the craziness when everybody was buying, because obviously you couldn't do anything in Toronto. But I know your condo market's changed dramatically, which is probably allowing a lot more buyers to stay in the city. But definitely we still get a lot of GTA buyers, especially if I get a listing near the highway in Lower Stony Creek or in Ancaster. When we get those listings, we find it is almost always an out-of-town buyer just because of the proximity to the highway. But when you get more central to the city, I find it's just a lot of Hamiltonians moving around.
So what do you think the percentage would be? Like right now, population of Hamilton, how many people are true Hamiltonians versus how many people have pushed prices up and coming from Toronto and other parts?
That's tough. I feel like during the craziness, at least 1 out of every 4 buyers had to be from Toronto. If not half of the buyers had to be from Toronto. Because you guys were driving the prices up. People that lived here couldn't afford to buy. So they were going out to like Brantford or Grimsby or St. Catharines, something like that. So
and then they were pushing those people out as well. It's like this whole thing, right? This domino.
All the way down out to Welland. And then eventually, I don't know where those people went from Welland.
They go to the States.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. It's got to be a larger percentage. And there's definitely parts of Hamilton that have a much larger percentage of Torontonians than native Hamiltonians. Yeah. Whereas the native ones, like I said, the more you get central Hamilton or Hamilton Mountain, it's a lot of people born and raised here.
Steve, you were born and raised in Surrey, no? You never left? What happened?
Very short period of time. When my parents split up, I was in Vancouver, but like months.
Have you ever seriously considered leaving where you live now?
I mean, I might move to the far off town of Langley one day. We'll see.
Okay.
But what am I going to do? We're in real estate, man. We're never leaving. Our business is so tied to where we're at.
Yeah,
was
but I
talking to
mean,
somebody the other
you could
day,
be
they're
an
like,
hour
"I'm gonna run my
away.
business from a different coast." I'm like, "Are you though? Are you?" I don't
There's
know.
there's some
too
that
fast.
seem to be able to do it that live in like Muskoka and run wildly successful real estate teams in the GTA. Yeah, they
That's
have lots of
crazy.
people that work for them,
Yeah.
and they're
So
not in sales anymore. But
help me understand. So what level is Hamilton? Is that tertiary? Does that mean 3? It's not suburb. So it's not like Markham would be like your like
no,
next step.
Markham's its own as well.
Yeah, but so you're gonna
Hamilton's
have
its
like
own.
city. You're gonna
Yeah,
have
so we
city,
have
then you're gonna have suburb, and then you're gonna have like kind of outside of that.
No, so Hamilton kind of amalgamated with a bunch of other different cities. Like it used to be Hamilton, then you had Stony Creek was separate, Ancaster, Flamborough, Glanbrook, they were all separate. And then back, God, like 20 some years ago, it all amalgamated under one and it's all Hamilton now. So we're a large city. I think we're actually the 7th largest city in Canada by population.
But if you
So
live in Ancaster, you say you live in Ancaster, right? Not Hamilton.
100%. Oh, yeah. 100%. I lived in Ancaster briefly, so I make sure to mention that when I'm going on Ancaster listing appointments. Oh yeah, I used to live here. Yeah.
Yeah, live in Hamilton now, but used to, spend some time in Ancaster. So if you had to break up like all those different pockets of Hamilton, give me the like. I know Ancaster's expensive. I've kind of figured that out. But where are people actually going? Like, where are the transactions happening? What's the hottest pocket? What are the price points? Like, give me a breakdown.
Like the hottest pocket is our east end, actually. Closest, we have a parkway called the Red Hill Parkway, which basically connects like Upper Stony Creek to Lower Stony Creek, but it runs right to the highway. So that area, we actually have a ton of turnover, and also the price point in that area. Like the average price in that area is probably, it's got to be mid 500s for a detached house. So we still get a lot of turnover there. Yeah,
That's
but our
great.
average price in the city is like 805 right now as we're speaking. So it's pretty good. That area has the most just because it is lower price, so we see a lot more turnover there.
Is it
I'd say
like,
that's the hottest pocket.
is it safe?
Parts of it. There's one part of it that we actually, I call it the Ancaster of Hamilton East. It's Rosedale is what it's called, and so it's this nice
Rosedale.
pocket at the bottom of the escarpment. It's kind of hugged by a couple golf courses, and it's nice. Like the homes are nice. You get those smaller, older, 800 to 1,000 square foot homes on these huge properties, which is what people like.
We had recently done a video breaking down like the 5 areas of Toronto that every buyer comes to me when they want to buy a single family home and says like, I want to buy here. And then we had like 2 alternatives for each of them. So, okay, I want to buy in Ancaster. Where am I actually buying?
If you want to buy an Ancaster, okay, so it depends. There's 2 thoughts on this. One is like Ancaster has old Ancaster, and then there's the Meadowlands. People from old Ancaster call the Meadowlands the ghetto lands because it's basically all new construction. It's where you're getting your like 40 by 90 or 40 by 100 foot lot. And they're just crammed, like they all look the same, right? The stucco, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. You got those in Toronto. Whereas older Ancaster is like people that bought 30 years ago, but now it's become like the area that you tear these houses down and you build these mansions on. So I find you get the people that bought there when it was like a hick town, but now they're all, oh, I'm from old Ancaster, right? So the older Ancaster, if you have the money, is definitely where you want to land.
Yep.
But the Meadowlands is where most people end up landing if they want to live in Ancaster, just because it's a lot more affordable.
And then what about Stony Creek? So I've heard this. I think that sounds nice. I want to move out there. Where am I actually buying?
So it depends what you need, but the Stony Creek Mountain is like, it's the top pocket if you're going there, because the Stony Creek Mountain is the only other area in Hamilton that kind of keeps up with Ancaster. Like we'll find, Ancaster will pop up, then Stony Creek will start to creep, and then Ancaster will go again. So they're never quite at par, but Stony Creek is right on the heels. And it's one of my favorite areas too. I lived there for 7 years. I loved it.
And Steve, what about your versions of this? I know we've talked about this. Actually, I don't know if we talked about this on the podcast.
This means not much. I mean, we got, I don't know, like it's so crazy the numbers you're saying. Everybody's like, "Where's my affordable housing? How about this $500,000 detached home only an hour outside of Toronto?" Sounds pretty bloody.
No, more than an hour probably, but
more than an hour
in traffic.
Yeah.
What house is that?
Whenever you go to Toronto, you're like, "How far away is this?" And everybody first answer is with traffic or without.
Yeah.
There's never not
100%.
traffic unless you're driving at
I
2
know.
a.m. So,
Oh my God, it's awful. I went downtown a couple of weeks ago, downtown Toronto. I was stuck on, oh God, is it Adelaide? I can't remember. It was
yeah,
like
well,
35
could be anywhere.
minutes just because I went to Jacob's Steakhouse for the first
Ooh,
time. It's actually
fancy.
really good. Yeah.
Yep.
And then, yeah, we just
You get the
crawling out
chocolate
of
chip
there.
muffin to take home for the morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
I ate it
But
in the
if
car
you're-
ride home. I was
if
just
you're
sitting
in
there. I was like, Jesus, I'm just going to eat this thing.
If you're in Vancouver and you're going, okay, distant, I'm going Chilliwack. Like some people will make that commute, right? Some people will go, they usually won't go to Hope. They'll go to Chilliwack. Let's say it's an hour and a half without traffic or with traffic or whatever you want to say. Those houses are still starting 800 grand. And a lot of them are still $1 million bucks.
That's crazy.
So, I mean, I don't know. It seems so affordable to me. Seems like you're in great shape.
Let's go back to that $500,000 mythical house. What is that? What is that house?
So you're looking at something small, like 700-800 square feet, 2 bedrooms, likely built in the 30s or the 40s.
Yep.
And it's going to be on a larger lot, but you know what? You're going to be closer to industrial area as well when you're in that area, because Hamilton East, it's closer. Like when you drive over the Burlington Skyway, you see all those factories. That's Hamilton East. So
okay,
you can
see the flame in the distance outside your front door.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's when we're watching Ticats game, it's this beautiful view of factories. You know, Hamilton's one of the only cities that I know of in the world that the real estate actually gets cheaper the closer you get to water.
Well, because all the factories are on the water, right?
Yeah. Not like for half of the city. The other half they're revitalizing. Like it's nice. We got like a walkway now.
Yeah.
But there's more coming there.
All right, so let's talk about, I guess, like market trends. We're all in different markets. I've noticed pickup in showings, offers are coming. They're going back and forth quite a few times to get it to the finish line. But there seems to be like, especially first-time home buyers, we've been getting those calls a lot, which were quiet for a while. I guess Justin, we'll start with you. What are you seeing now day to day? You're very active in your market. What are people saying?
So across our listings, so we track all of our showings. So my company has 700 agents, and they track the showings across all the offices. And we saw when the last rate announcement came out, within a week, appointments went up by 8.8%. So definitely an uptick in showings. But we're still finding if a house is priced well, it'll still sell. If you overprice even a little bit, you're getting punished right now. Like they're sitting. People aren't even coming to see it, which is, over 30, 40K when we're at an 800 average price. You'd think, oh, somebody will come and see it. Right. But we're not even, like, the showings are nothing. Whereas other listings I have are selling, like we price them, they're gone in 3-4 days.
And are you finding that it's just a price point thing, or just like you just have to be like, is there a lot of inventory to choose from still?
Yeah.
Or are you multiple offers a thing?
High.
Okay.
Yeah, our inventory is super high. We get multiple offers. I got multiple offers on a listing the other day. It was 769, and the highest offer we had was 750 with 3 offers.
Multiple
and they
offers
all had
under
conditions.
asking. Yeah.
Yeah. All conditions, right? So so we're not really seeing that crazy over asking. But yeah, like I said, I don't know. If things are priced well, they go, because our inventory is still so high compared to what we actually have looking out there. Everybody's so hesitant.
How many offers was that on a
3?
So you end up with 3 offers. How are your sellers now determining the winner of those 3 offers? Is it still just highest price? Because now you've got conditions, you've got all that stuff going on. So like how'd that conversation go?
So this one in particular was vacant. They wanted a quick closing. So the closing was, I'd say the price was a priority, but closing was also very important. The conditions were more or less the same. Like, we're seeing finance inspection, which is fine. But yeah, they wanted to work on both the price and the closing. But I'll tell you, the one that had the earlier closing that could accommodate the closing was the one they wanted to work with.
Interesting. And did it get to a price that the sellers were actually happy with, or just, okay, fine, if this is what is available right now, we'll take it.
I feel like that's all the conversations these days. Like listings is like banging your head on a wall, man. It's, everybody's just, okay, we'll take it. You don't get these people anymore that it's like, you're so pumped up, you can't sleep. The price was incredible. Oh my God. It's just like, okay, I guess we have to take this. Right.
We had one last week where So it's a tenanted property. So as a result, like it didn't go into multiples. I thought it was going to get multiples, but it didn't. So we got the price, and the price was like, okay, like it's okay. The seller didn't really want to take it. But as soon as we started digging into the tenancy rules and when notice needed to be served, which by the way is absurd now, it's not even just the 90 days anymore. Now it's 90 days here plus like 3 or 4 days so the notice can deem to be served, all this stuff. She ended up actually taking a little bit less, specifically because the subject removal date was changed and it allowed her to not carry the property for yet another month, right? So something as simple as that actual subject removal date is now becoming much more important, or at least valuable in a way to that particular seller. So like we're not just focused, everybody's always focused on price. These other things are starting to come in where the sellers are, price isn't terrible. Maybe I'll take it, maybe I won't. But then there's other terms that are really getting that deal across the finish line.
And there's also the agent on the other side. I'm sure for all three of us, we're working with kind of the same group of people on a lot of things. And sometimes when I see an offer coming from a certain agent, I'm like, great, this will be like, I trust that person vetted this buyer, they're pre-approved, they educated them on the process, and it's not the first time they're ever making, not that it's the first time they're making an offer, but it's like, I've dealt with this before. I've dealt with this person. Then you see kind of an offer come in from someone else. And you're like, okay, here we go. Realtors, it's time to up your game. Realty Ninja allows you to create a stunning lead capturing and hassle-free website that looks great and will match with your current brand. They are a sponsor of this show, and they're giving listeners 20% off your first year, and you don't pay $1 until you launch. Join the thousands of real estate agents across this country, including Steve, the cheapest person I know that uses their services. realtyninja.com/Tom. And now, back to the podcast. So that's a big thing too. And like, you got to work with them. Like, what are you still getting the agents from Toronto annoying you out there?
My gut reaction, whenever I have an agent bringing an offer from Toronto, I'm like, oh, like I was about to curse, but I was like, oh, this is going to be good. Like, man, it's crazy. The people that we get coming here, right?
Yeah, because they overpay.
No, like this is. I want to be like, no, like this is going to be interesting. Because I'll be honest, Tom. Like, I don't know. Like, so guy, like you, for instance, right? You get somebody looking in Hamilton. You're not driving to Hamilton.
No, never.
Because you're a productive agent. You know what you're doing. You're very experienced, very skilled, right? I find that when we get these agents that drive from Toronto, it's usually maybe one of the only deals they're doing this year, or one of the very few. So the paperwork. Like, I should show you some of the offers that I got. It's unbelievable. Like, some of them missing, like, irrevocable till 5 p.m. with no date. The closing date's not in there. The price is different in 2 different spots. Like, you know what I mean? There's just things that don't make sense with it, or the conditions are like, this doesn't even make sense. So I find that GTA agents, we actually have the hardest time with, I'll be honest. But
you see a 416 number calling you, you just hang up.
647 too.
That's
I mean, we'll deal with it, right? Not everybody though. Obviously, you know that, right? Like, this is the industry. What 10% does 90% of the volume. So you're all, like, we are dealing with people that know what they're doing. But I find a lot of times when we get people driving 2 hours to show property, there's a reason they're willing to do that, and I think it's because they're not obviously active enough in their market. So they're just doing whatever they can to get a deal, and they might not be able to do the paperwork properly, if that makes sense.
So we had 6 accepted offers last week, and most of them now are coming from like, I don't know you, realtor.com, whatever their name is. Who knows who the heck this agency is? Some of them are coming from good agencies, but like, I don't know who you are. And then it's a big question mark. How, is this going to come together? Actually, Tom, recently, right after one of our recordings with Keith, a few days later, I was showing a property, and I couldn't believe it. I opened up the offer. I didn't realize it's Keith's team, and so I just did a deal with him, and I opened up the offer, and that was the smoothest deal I've had in 9 months, maybe more. Like, everything was just on point. There was questions, there was issues, like, what's going on here, what's going on there. But it was just like point, done. Subject removal, draft is in time. Everything's on point. And then there's other folks where it's like, oh, my full-time job is now babysitting you through this transaction for 10 days.
But here's the thing. In a slower market with more inventory, even if you get an offer from someone that maybe you don't have the best feeling, it's kind of like, well, to my seller at least, it's worth taking the risk on this because this is the only thing that exists right now.
100%.
Right? Now, if there's multiple offers, I can say, hey, your decision to choose which one you want. I don't know this person. That's totally fine. I've worked with this person 3 times before, never had an issue. You know, selling your property is one thing, but making sure it closes is actually not just in our control. That's part of the other side as well.
Yeah, and even it's true because you don't know, right? It's a gamble, and especially when like the last 2 offers I dealt with on 2 properties, I got the offers and I was almost rewriting large portions of the offer in the counter offer. And I'm thinking, okay, like I'm trying not to tell my seller that I'm doing all this work because I don't want them to think that the person bringing the offer has no idea what they're doing. I want to try to at least give them some validity. But you're right. We're trying to drag these across the line because I don't want to, when it's the only offer, you don't want to say, bring me a correct offer and then risk losing it. Like I'd rather just do what I need to do that's necessary to make sure that at least when they sign it, it makes sense. Like it's binding and everything's clear.
Who needs a binding contract? Get that out of here. Tom, let me do my public service announcement for the week for realtors. When you're typing up a contract, I don't know how it is in Ontario. When you're typing up a contract, usually for us on page 3 or 4 or something, you get into terms and conditions and it's blank. And then the agent has to actually type up that part. So a lot of it's a fillable form and then there's a blank part. Can you leave me some space for whatever's going to happen in the counter offer? The agents that just jam everything in and you don't even have enough space to write, please see attached addendum anywhere. Like, just leave me some space. I'm going to change something. Even if you write the best contract in the world, I'm on the other side of the negotiation. I have to change something. Like, it's probably going to be I change something. So leave.
What are you adding in? Why are you putting more conditions in?
Not more. No, more. Not conditions. I would put in more terms. So, for instance, here, there's a very specific title term that gets used that addresses what happens if there's easements on the property and that sort of thing. And buyers in the past, if they've had regret, what they do is they take that offer to court and they point to that term in the standard contract that says, okay, well, they didn't satisfy that exactly. So you actually have to alter depending on the charges on title. And if you wrote your offer, you probably haven't even reviewed the title yet as the buying agent. You're going to do that in your due diligence, right? So now you have to go in and insert that contract. So into the contract. So there's all sorts of different stuff. But I know for sure that if I get your contract, I'm probably going to change something because I'm very particular in the way I like to write my contracts to make them, like you said, one, firm and binding and enforceable. But at the same time, I probably don't want to enter too many things into my contract, but I have to protect my seller, right? I do have to protect my seller. I had somebody write in a contract. It was a resale property, and they basically wrote in a new property. Like when you do a new property, there's like deficiency walkthroughs and things usually, like with the developer. They wrote that into a resale contract. So I'm like, nope, I had to cross all that out. And then I had to write in the resale stuff, right? So they were obviously a newer agent. They didn't exactly know what they were doing. Good contract. It was fine. But I had to change a lot of that. And you got to leave me space, man. You got to leave me space. Let me insert something in there. Don't just jam all your stuff in there. Not with me.
Our Schedule A is usually leave enough space that we can add things in. So that seems like a BC issue to me.
Yeah.
Tom just doesn't look at his contracts. He's like,
yeah, okay. Yeah.
They got the price you want. Hurry up and sign it.
No, there's a few standard clauses in ours that we get sometimes where if it's a condo, it's like whether it's the Ki-Tech clause or they're like, you haven't done any criminal activity, but then it states for like the entire building. It's like, my seller can't tell you that their neighbor's never done something illegal. Like we got to make it just for that. So there's little things like that we have to change once in a while.
In BC, we have the grow up clause. Right? Like at one point in time, 2004 to 2010, half of the houses were grow ups, and that continues now for on. Like you literally have to disclose that forever until the building's demolished.
What's the discount on a previous grow up house.
Way
If
less
it's
than
10
you
years
think.
out, it's 10
Way
years,
less
10 years away
It
from
doesn't matter if it was once ever, it's discounted because it runs with the land forever until the house is demolished.
5% discount, 10%.
No, it's actually not even. It's
No?
just really hard to finance. But anyway, you need time to insert all these things. Like we have a lot of unauthorized basement suites, right? Like most of them are done without permits. That needs to be in there. If you don't write it in there, you're putting your seller at risk by not having it in there. Leave me some room.
All right. Here, I got a question for our guest, Stephen, if you're okay to be finished with your
This is Steve Karrasch show.
All right. So speaking of long contracts with lots of things in them that can get complicated, there's this dirty word in Toronto real estate right now called an assignment sale. Now, you were in Toronto. We went out for lunch and we were talking about that you were dealing with some, and I've had my own, version of that this year. What are you finding right now? Are assignments slowly starting to move again because sellers are like, all right, I just have to get this gone? Are you finding buyers are showing up? And then my follow-up question is, are these assignments on low-rise housing or are these condo building assignments?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I've been dealing with assignments probably since January. I really got into it as a niche, and I've done quite a few, but I find lately that the only ones that are getting across the line are the ones that are taking significant hits. Like walking away from your deposit now almost isn't even enough for somebody to buy it. Like there's people that I know that when they're looking for these assignments, it's like they don't even care if they're overpaying for the unit. They just want to know that the seller took an absolute bath. You know what I mean? Like they lost their shirt. And that's how some of these investors approach it, right? And you can try to educate them, but you know what it's like sometimes trying to do that. It's a good mix. Condos are definitely harder. Townhouses are the ones that I see go through most frequently. And then the odd detached house. But typically, if it's a detached house, it's nowhere near the GTA because just the price point, right? Like we need to see it basically under $1 million.
I remember in the midst of the craziness, I forget who the developer was. I think maybe it was Lamb, but I don't know who it was. And there was a condo that launched in Hamilton. And this thing, I remember hearing about it. You probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Television City.
Okay, so over $1,000 a square foot in Hamilton. No disrespect, right?
Yeah,
but I'm currently selling condos in downtown Toronto for less than that today, right? People were lining up to buy it. There's a ton of things. Like, has that completed? What's going on there? And maybe not just that specific project, but there was a few launches at high per square foot prices in a market outside Toronto that investors were like, yes, please, because this still rents pretty well. What's going on there?
Yeah, so right now the resale price of a lot of these that have been built, they're coming in between like around $600 a foot. Wow. Right? And these are people that bought over
from 1,000.
Yeah, like there's one bedroom, like one bed, one baths that people were picking up for like, $1,000 a square foot. Now you can buy resale 2 years old for $600 a foot. And the thing is, I was always into pre-construction myself, but I stopped buying pre-construction personally in 2019 because I was looking at the prices, I was looking at the rent, and I was thinking, this doesn't even make sense now. Like rent would have to go up significantly, like 40, 50% to even have a shot at covering this. Whereas other people, I guess, got pushed into the new construction game. Like, I was talking to a lot of people out of it. And I actually, between 2019 and like the craziness, I really didn't sell many new like pre-construction units. I was just very much against it just because of it made no sense financially.
We almost exclusively got out of it and just wouldn't recommend anything pretty much after that time frame as well. I did quite a few earlier on in my career when the numbers added up. And there was a point too that the resale market was so stupid, hot and crazy. That was like, all right, well, at least I can get you a pre-con unit. Like I can get you this. It's a little bit more, but you can buy it if you want. And there's not 27 offers like the last condo we tried to buy. So there was like that moment there where a few people, but I think a lot of investors are just going to have to hang tight here for a while. Like when that building or others like it completed, was it just a flood of rental units? Did it all just come for rent? Or
so first we had a flood of assignment units. come out, and like we always do when these things get within a few months. Then there was people that listed right away, but then we also saw like a crap load of rentals. Like there's one building in Hamilton, Kiwi, that was built, and it like, I don't know, half the building must have been rentals. But what that does then is, because Hamilton's not a huge city, obviously, right? Like we don't have really very many high rises or big residential buildings like you guys do. And what that did is it flooded, and it actually kind of bottomed, like it capped the rental amounts across the whole lower Hamilton, just because people were renting it for significantly cheaper just to get it rented out. Like when you're competing, you have 30 other rentals in the same building, right? Just the building, let alone not all of downtown. It gets tough, right? So yeah, but even then, like, we're seeing these rental rates, and I'm looking at it, and I know the purchase prices, and I'm thinking you're losing like $2,000-3,000 a month here. You have to be, between the condo fees and the mortgage and the taxes.
Well, they're just holding on if they can for a while. I mean, they're going to be holding on a long time. Like, do you see a future? And I'm talking specifically condos in Hamilton, which I know is a super niche market anyways. But like, do you see a future that picks up again, because freehold properties have gotten so far out of whack on price, and the gap is getting there, that condos will eventually, be in demand again?
So condos here took the biggest hit, but they also had the biggest gain when things were going crazy. Like they had, in 1 year, our average price on condos, and we're talking apartment style condos, not townhouse condos. Apartment style condos went up 41% in 1 year in 2021. So they obviously took a much larger hit. They came down like 17% and then 23% again, like the next 2 years. So they're almost back to where they were before the craziness.
Yeah.
But I do see it, like, and there's got to be a point that it does, because right now nobody's buying the new construction in downtown Hamilton. So because nobody's buying it now, in 2-3 years, there's going to be nothing more built, right?
Yeah.
So I think when that happens, we're going to only have a limited amount of inventory, right? Supply and demand, economics 101. If the supply is not there and we have the demand coming back, it has to go up.
Are they still building and I don't say this in a bad way, but cookie cutter houses? Like, is there still new construction of your 40 by 90 that still exists and you can buy it? Like, what does that cost?
Okay, so Stony Creek Mountain, here's one great example. Rosehaven, actually, builder. I think they build in the GTA too, but so you can buy a detached there. It's say like 2,400 square feet for around 1.2 to 1.25, depending on your lot size. But you can go in that same subdivision, literally just around the corner, like 7 houses down and around the corner. You can buy the exact same model already built for like 1.1 with a fence, with window coverings, with air conditioning, with a, you know what I mean? Like it's stuff that you have to do after the fact. So it actually doesn't make sense right now to even buy these detached homes, but you're not getting any brand new detached properties in Hamilton for under $1 million. That's like new construction.
And choosing to buy the one that's already 2 years built, that's done what needed to be done. I mean, are those on the market? Do they exist? Are they selling? Is there inventory?
Yeah, they're selling. Like Hamilton over 1.3, it's a bit of a ghost town in that price point right now.
Don't worry, new mortgage rules are coming in soon.
That's I'm starting to see it change a little bit. So, but yeah, they sell. They sell like between 1 and 2 million. It's a huge range though, but that's our number one price point in Hamilton. I don't know why my office looks at things. They do it like in 100,000 increments, and for some reason it gets to 1 million, and it's between like 1 and 2 million. So obviously it's the biggest portion, but we have a lot of activity in that range.
In that range, over 1 million is active.
Yeah, but I find over 1.3, it's almost non-existent. Like it's
Steve,
very, very difficult.
This almost kind of, on a previous episode, we talked about the new mortgage rules and how everyone's focusing on how the insured cap's going from 1 million to 1.5, but really it's going to be the 1 million to 1.25 that it's going to open up the action. Well, the action's already there. It's just going to increase. Then those properties are going to push to 1.4 million because you got so much more demand coming in, right? It's going to push up the prices and get you higher.
Push them
That's
up.
What I hope. I'm in that range, so I'm in that range. I want to see a push. Yeah.
On your own personal house?
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone wants to see their own house go up. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Of
Your
course.
house isn't worth nothing. It's going to crash, but my house is going to go.
And if I didn't
you know what, Steve? Mine is the nicest one on the street, I'll be honest.
That's funny. You must live at my house.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've brought this up a few times with other guests, but I always I'm a numbers guy. It's how I make sense of the world. And you said that the average sale price in Hamilton is like $800,000 for generally everything, right? But to buy a detached house, like we just talked about, you're $1 million plus 1 to 1.2, I guess is kind of 1.2 is kind of the range. So average sale price in Hamilton is 800. Average sale price in the GTA is just under 1.1 million right now. Steve, where are you guys at? Not detached, but just market. Like if you'd say average sale price, do you know where you're at?
For tenant, landlord, or homeowner insurance policies, go to squareone.ca/the Tom Storey Show. Use the link in the description. Save $20 when you start your free quote right now. No.
Give me a guess. Anyways,
yeah, I will come back. I'm gonna look it up right now.
All right. Okay.
I don't know because we have 3 distinct classes, right? Detached, townhouse, condo. That's our 3. We don't have semis like you do. So let me try and figure that out. I'm gonna guess right now, $900K.
Okay. So I'm gonna ask a few somewhat rhetorical questions just to make my point here, right? Do we think that if you were a real estate investor, would you be happy with a 3% increase on your property every year? Would you be happy? Probably not, right? You'd probably like more of it. I just heard that condos went up 41% one year. 3%? Like what's that, right? We could also agree that inflation's moving in the right direction. If it's 2 or under 2, that is a good thing because we got it under control. Short term won't be a good thing for the economy, but eventually it will all play out. So if we all kind of understand that, listen, the next 5 years, 10 years of real estate growth in our 3 respective markets ain't going to be what happened previous in the last 10 years, right? Probably not. So let's use that 3% number and say, okay, because housing typically, actually, at least in Canada, has outpaced inflation for a long, long time. So let's say inflation's 1.5 to 2 and the housing only goes up 3%. So, and this is with the compound every year, the 3%, and then on that next total number. So, Steve, in 10 years, if right now Toronto real estate only goes up 3% a year, our average sale price would be just under $1.5 million.
We are, I just looked up, Fraser Valley Board outside of Vancouver, 992.
So you'd be in the 1.3 range, and then Hamilton would be 1.5 kind of range, right? In 10 years from now. Now that 3% doesn't sound like much growth, but the problem is we're now starting 3% or whatever the number ends up being at 800,000, 900,000, and 1.1 million. At 200,000, it's whatever. That doesn't change my life. So there's my thought.
But we're down 3.8% year over year.
Yeah, you're down this year. I'm talking about over the next 10 years, what's it going to average out to be?
We're down 200K from the peak. We're down 20% from the peak.
But of course you're down from the peak. What are you up from 2017?
Oh, good question. Let's see.
Right. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to get Justin, are you checking your stats? I didn't prepare you guys for this.
That's okay. I got this since 2017. I had them ready because I'm Tom's going to ask this. I actually thought Steve was going to ask.
So we're up 250K. We're up
even with the 20% drop from the peak, you're up 250K from 2017. All right.
Yeah. 33%.
So we're up 330,000. Yeah, 325,000 since 2017.
Even with the drop off from 2022.
Yeah, we were 475 and now it's at 805.
That extra must be just a tie cat.
Thank you, Toronto.
Yeah, seriously. It's just the money moving around. It's just coming from the city to Hamilton and other cities, right? And now it's going Canada wide. Now it's pushing up prices in Edmonton and Calgary.
Are you seeing people leaving right now? Still, the leaving is gone.
I'll tell you this. I haven't had more conversations in my life than I have this year about people leaving not just Ontario, but Canada in general. Like but they leaving Ontario, I'm having so many conversations about
that
it.
was last year for us, not this year now.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. People are just getting tired of it here, I think. I don't know
What are they getting
it is.
tired
Just
of?
the cost of everything, how expensive it is, right? Especially our city. Like, at least in your city, if you have a job and you live in Toronto, like, it's all good, right? But Hamilton's a huge bedroom city. A lot of people that live here, even people born here, they oftentimes don't really work even in the city. Like, they're going other places like Cambridge or Guelph or something like that. Or I have a lot of friends that work in Mississauga and a couple that work downtown Toronto, right? And but a lot of them just think like I'm working, I'm making good money, but I can't afford to live like in Hamilton, which is crazy when you're from Hamilton to think that you can't afford to live in it.
So they're from Hamilton, they can't afford to live there. Their jobs in Toronto or Mississauga. And then where are they going back to? If they're not in Hamilton, where are they living? Or are they just renting in Hamilton?
I think they just want to, no, they own, but they just want to peace out and go either out west or out east or just get out of here. Like 2 of the deals I did this year, people moved to Nova Scotia. 2 of my deals. So people are still looking to pull that shoot, right, and get out of here.
I think it slowed down a little bit, obviously, but my conversations we actually haven't, I think on purpose, Steve, had a Calgary realtor on the podcast in a while because we didn't want to have the same conversation we've been having, which is like, how many people are coming there? What are prices doing? It's like the same thing.
The difference though here is the people that are here. The people that are here is insane. It's like the people
what do you mean by that?
Lined up at the bus stops in the Lower Mainland now. It's crazy. We've never had transit in this city. In the city of Surrey, Corporation of Delta, not the city of Delta. Like we have crap transit. We've always had crap transit. Nobody ever took it. And now you drive down the street, every bus stop is jammed with people. They're obviously probably new to Canada. A lot of them look of university age. And it's just everywhere. Everywhere you go. I was walking home the other day and I saw a bus go by and it was jam-packed full of people. There's just people everywhere. And my thought is like, oh no, if these people all stay here, this demand is going to go crazy. Like we're going to not have enough houses, shocker. Pumper, let me pump the market here a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
But like, how are all these people, first of all, finding places right now? Well, the truth is they're stacking up 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people per basement suite, right? And it's just, my mind is blown by how busy the streets are now. Nobody walked down the street in Surrey for the last 10 years. Nobody walked down the street. You took a car everywhere. Nobody had a bicycle. Nobody had a scooter. And now there seems to be more people on the streets than there is in their cars driving around because all the cars are in Toronto, apparently.
They're in Hamilton. we don't have people. The only people walking down our streets are typically crazy people, but we haven't had that. What we have is a huge traffic congestion. Like for me, it's the cars on the road. I don't really see too many people drive or walking around because even our downtown isn't that overly busy. But no matter where you're going in Hamilton, what time of day, now all day long, our major roads are basically what used to be rush hour. It's all day long.
Who's driving on them if they're not working?
I don't know. Is people working from home? I got no idea. If it's people working from home that are doing stuff during the day, I have no idea why it's so busy. But it's not like we have the Lincoln Alexander Parkway, the link in our city, which connects the east to the west across the mountain. It's the quickest way across, or used to be the quickest way across. Now there's traffic on it going both ways at a certain point, like in the middle. And it doesn't matter what time of day you go. It used to be exclusively just rush hour, like morning and afternoon, but now it's backed up. And I really don't know who it is. It's a great question.
I don't know. I think we talk about housing prices all the time.
People showing real estate. That's who it is.
It's Toronto agents coming.
Toronto agents trying to get home.
Coming to show your listing, right?
I gotta get there early to beat rush hour. Yeah, it's packed, man. It's packed, and it's only going to get more packed.
Well, because nothing's going to be built in a few years, right? Like I think we're all running into this issue. You guys probably are. I know you for sure are in Toronto. Is people aren't buying new construction, so there's going to be that pinch point in a few years.
Oh, it's going to happen.
I know somebody sent me a picture of they were in construction and they were in a brand new condo building, and they sent me a video of the new units being sold. And I'm assuming these are all sold because they're all in, like, they're just installing the kitchens. And I get the unit, and I'm like, this thing is maybe 280 square feet, including all closets and everything. And I'm just like, man, that's not, and that's 45 minutes, 50 minutes outside of the city. We're getting tiny little, I mean, there's literally, if you're lucky, a Murphy bed would be the only way to maybe be able to have a kitchen and a bed at the same time.
Hey folks, Tom and his team are using a new tool from TRESAvideo.ca to help them explain Rico's information guide to their clients. And if you're an agent in Ontario looking to increase your transparency and trust with your clients in an easier way, you too can go to TRESAvideo.ca right now and get your own custom branded Rico Guide Explainer video that can simply be added to your email signature, put on your website, or integrated into any CRM email campaigns. And if you go to TRESAvideo.ca right now and use the promo code TOMSHOW, you can save 20% off your purchase. So don't wait, go to TRESAvideo.ca right now, enter the code TOMSHOW on checkout, quickly upload your branding, and receive your new video from TRESAvideo.ca right now.
So is that what you're seeing? Are you selling these tiny little crappy shoe boxes? Because this is not a Fraser Valley style home. This is a downtown, I have every restaurant I ever needed below I'm not going to spend any time in my unit except only to sleep. I don't even know why there's a stove in here because I'm never cooking at home. Like, is that what you guys have now? Because that's not housing as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's definitely what Tom has, but for us, no, we do actually have, there was units built that were in the 400 square foot range. We also have around, like, we have McMaster University. So around there, we do have purpose built student rentals that really aren't equipped with kitchens. They're more just like rooms, and you have like a shared bathroom for every 2 units, and then you might have a kitchenette. But yeah, we don't, because Hamilton's not really set up for that kind of lifestyle where you just go to your unit to sleep. Like, we're just not that big of a city. You're really going to spend a lot of time at home. But I know that I've done assignment sales in Toronto, Tom. Like, man, people bought like 410 square foot units for like close to 600K. That's wild to me.
I know. You should see what's selling for 600K resale right now, and great buildings with great floor plans. It's amazing.
This is the best one I've heard. Now, I have no evidence of this yet. This is only hearsay, so this would not stand up in court. I know a guy who has a family member that works in financing of these types of projects. And currently, they are working on financing a project of which the condo has, get this, a rental suite in it.
That's interesting.
That I've never heard of that.
Me neither. And I'm begging, like, can you get me like inside? Like, can you get me floor plans? I want to see how this is. He's like, I've never seen anything like it. My wife's telling me all about how this is. So I'm assuming it's a 2-bedroom unit, but they've kind of cut it up and put in like 2 kitchens and made them each 1-bed units. And they apparently they might even share ventilation. Like, it's a real mishmash, but apparently, I don't know. I've only rumors. I know nothing about it. I don't do pre-construction. Apparently it's happening in Coquitlam, and I would love to see how that is. Can you imagine we're in a housing situation where you need to put a basement suite in a condo in order to afford it?
Well, you can't do that, but you can.
But that's what it is. It's a rental inside of your condo. Like, that is.
But it's like that's just a 2-bed split floor plan with a wall in the middle with 2 doors to get in. Then, right? Like, that's you're essentially like buying 2 and calling
2
it
1-bedroom units.
Right. Right.
I don't know if I can get.
It would be cheaper for the developer not to do that, though.
I have no idea.
It would be.
He was telling me
you
about
might be able to charge more though.
Just because it is, you can charge more because half your mortgage is paid by this guy paying $1,500 a month, right? So, it's insanity to me. I was like, there's no way this is real. This can't be real. And he's like, they're working on it. They're funding it right now.
Other than other than price, which is obviously the biggest factor, the one thing that I would look at, like my listings over the years, it's like, okay, you price it right, you market it correctly. Adding staging is not a guarantee it sells, but it really ups the percentage of potential. Now I'm finding that staging isn't a guarantee of anything anymore. And I'd like to know in your markets, like, are you guys doing a lot of staging, Justin, in your market? And is it making home sell faster for more? Because it used to work like a charm in Toronto. And now it's kind of like, it doesn't guarantee anything. It just makes you look a little bit better, but doesn't get you an offer necessarily.
Yeah, what I've been having happen mostly now is I bring my stager in for a consultation and she actually stages it with their furniture.
Right.
So I do still do that. I haven't full staged. I don't even know if I've full staged a house all year. I'm trying to think. I did a couple last year, but I'm not noticing a significant difference, right? Like you said, because people almost aren't getting fooled by it as much as they used to, I think, if that's the right way to say it. And buyers are way more sensitive to the actual, like the pricing of the properties. They want to know that they're getting value for it. They're kind of seeing past the staging now, I think. Like, I agree with you completely. I haven't noticed a significant difference, but then again, we do get the consultant to go through and she is making it look nicer and flow better, right?
Or was it not really that big of a tool in the first place and it was a tool to win the listing over top of actually?
I think it was
more, right? Like, what is it?
I think it was. I don't know. Have you seen concrete proof? Do you track this? Have you tracked this, Tom? Anybody?
It's impossible to know. Like, you could go through photos of 1,000 listings and try to pick which ones were staged and which ones weren't and try to do the numbers. But like, no, there's no official. I think NAR used to have like a 6%. You get 6% better price, but that's from the States. 6%. So
I agree with Steve. Like, I think a lot of things and activities that happen don't really contribute to the sale of the house as much as winning the listing. Like, staging, I think, is one of those things, because if you won't stage it, they know somebody else that will stage it.
Do you think sellers expect it in your market though? Because they expect it in Toronto.
Yeah, see here, not as much. It's they're happy with the consultation and then recommend it. And sometimes she'll bring in some furniture just to help, or we'll ask them to put some stuff in the garage.
It's not the same thing. It's a frenzy in Toronto of like staging full thing. Like, you guys basically, to me, outside looking in, it looks like you basically are like, move out of your home, we're bringing in all new stuff, you live somewhere else for a while. And like, I'm going into these places and I'm like, can you please just clean up your kitchen a little before the photos? Like, that's Surrey life, man. Like, people are like, do I really have to like flush the toilet each time I like this is legitimate. Like, you walk into it's funny because in the north end of town is the wrong side of the tracks for us. And then the south end is where the Richie Riches are. So when you go to the south end, most of the units are staged, and not staged, but they're the owners are of a higher level anyway, financially. So they're like used to like a certain level of standard. So those properties will be beautiful. Like, we actually will say on our team in our meetings, like, does it show like a Guildford home, or does it show like a Grandview home, which is South Surrey, right? So like, it's here not such a thing, but I feel like in Toronto it's like this, like almost like a mandatory, like the agent has to spend $6,000 just to put it on the market, or I'm not listed with them.
No, but honestly, like, it got to a point competition wise that if you didn't offer it, you're not in the game. Like, it just was that. Like, it's funny. I have a listing right now. It'll be sold by the time this episode's out, so no one will know what I'm talking about. But I am, and I'm not complaining. Let's be very clear. I'm $12,000 into this property. Okay.
Holy, that's wild. Is it a condo? Like, when you're staging, you're talking about staging condos too?
We do that. In this scenario, I'm not talking about a condo, but I'm a lot of money into this house, let alone time. And, we've gone all out because I thought it would have happened a lot quicker. And for whatever reason, it didn't, but we're on track now again. We actually had the staging, took the photos with the staging, had the staging there for 60 days, decided to remove the staging because we didn't want to pay for another month of, obviously it's not making the difference why it hasn't sold. It's always pricing. Now that we've removed the staging, we've had 2 offers since the staging's been gone. Now the photos are still staged, but when they go there, it's empty. And now we're getting offers. So either like this makes no sense, or just activity's picking up a little bit and buyers are coming back to the market?
I need that clip. Sure. I need that clip from my listing presentations when they ask, should we stage? I was like, well, here, just watch this.
But it's like, it's such an expense. It's crazy to me what you guys spend out there on that sort of thing. And it's like the stagers are making that money if the home sells or not.
Stagers have the best business model out of all of us the last few years. There's no...
Right? Like, hey, go in, move it out. It's all the same.
It's my number one expense, not even close. My number one expense in my business, not even close. Employees don't get paid what my stager gets paid on like a 1 year basis of.
So then every once in a while you'll get somebody who does it like in-house or whatever.
Well, and it's funny though, like lots of big real estate teams will get storage units, buy their own stuff, hire their own movers, and then like I was at a mastermind thing not that long ago, and people were complaining about like, what are you guys doing with all your staging inventory? Should we just sell it off now? Should we get out of it? Because this is now a major headache on this end. So like, I get why it costs a lot of money because there's so much involved. I'm not saying that it's not useful. Actually, lots of the time, like I actually still believe in it. It's just like maybe it's not as useful as we thought it was when the market was just crazy and the house was going to sell anyways.
But it's also not all those people those agents that like go get their own staging inventory and stuff. Do you know how much of a headache that is and the layers of headache you're adding to your business as opposed to just paying a bill to a stager that can come in and get it done for you and you don't have to worry about the pickup and the drop off and everything.
That's why I've been doing the latter. But you know,
you're getting into a whole different business there, right? Like it's like, I don't want to say it's unrelated to real estate, but it's an entirely different business when you start doing that. You got to coordinate it. I can see the staging working in condos for you guys just because of your tighter spaces. A lot of times you might want to reflect the layout a bit better.
Yep.
Right? Because
especially if it's empty.
Yeah, exactly. I saw one of your listings. I always laugh. I don't laugh, but I enjoy it. When one of your listings, it's like you're talking about, oh, this chef's kitchen. And it's like just a row of cabinets with like a stove and a sink. And I'm like, oh my God.
Hey, that's marketing, baby.
You know what? Selling that, I couldn't do it. I don't think I could do it like you do it, these condos like that all the time.
To be fair, his client was a chef. So technically he wasn't a client.
Define chef. It means you make food.
You know? Yeah. Chat GPT, I love you for helping me write property descriptions that nobody ever reads. Does anybody read property descriptions?
I think the sellers of their own properties do.
Sellers of their own properties read the property description, and no one ever. I don't think I've ever read a property description once in my life, other than the ones I've written.
Like, you didn't mention the hardwood floors. You didn't mention the hardwood floors. Oh yeah, good point. They're not going to catch that in the photos.
Yeah. All right. Here's where I want to wrap this conversation up. Actually, not that long ago, we had a guest on that was talking about investors returning to the market. It was Zen. And he wasn't actually talking about condo investors. He was talking about freehold duplex buyers. And we asked him, where do these exist? And he said Hamilton. So are you seeing that still? Like these duplexes that people are buying, house hacking, renting out the whole thing, that's still active?
Huge. It's huge. So there's two ways to do it. One is legally and one is illegally. So the illegal one we find more popular.
It's two ways to do everything in life.
Yeah. 90% of them aren't legal rental units, right? Like you have to actually go through the legal ADU, like it's probably similar to what you guys have in the GTA, with proper fire separations and all this, and do the actual conversion. So the ones you can go and buy a house, like Hamilton has, like it's almost like an unlimited number of bungalows that we have with these side entrances that were all built from the 50s to the 70s, and they're perfect for duplexing out. One unit upstairs, one in the basement, even potentially a garage conversion. So the ones that are not legal, we'll say they didn't go through the permitting process of it. Those ones go for like the mid 700s. If somebody's gone through and actually legalized it, you're going in the low 800s. So like 820, 830 for those. Right. Whereas you're 750 for the non-legal ones. Basically, the difference in value is probably the cost of construction and the cost of the permitting and all that stuff. So a lot of people aren't even doing it. Like I sell some of these houses and I know, like we put the separate entrance in there, it has separate entrance. We're hyping it up and it's got a kitchen in the basement. And I know that all somebody's going to do is just put a wall up between the upstairs and downstairs and then rent it out. Mm-hmm. Like that's going to happen. it's not going to stop. But yeah, Hamilton is a huge pocket for this investment scene because we also have properties large enough to not only like you can do up to 4 units now on one of our properties, which might be the same for you. I don't know, is that Ontario wide? So yeah, the so you can convert, 3 units in the house plus 1 garden suite, and we have a lot of properties in Hamilton that can accommodate that. The biggest issue we see with it though is just lack of available information from the city on how to do it. If you're not involved in it every day, you're not working. Like I understand the process behind it and what they're going to be looking for. But if you're working with somebody that isn't, like finding information on it is incredibly difficult because it's not, you think it would be easily available because they want to create this affordable housing, but it's like pulling teeth to try to get any sort of information on it.
At the city level, it's so hard to do, right? Like if you think about, if you buy a house here in Surrey and you spend $1.2 million and it's worth 1.4 if you put in a basement suite, right? Okay, that's good. Now, to go to the city and let alone, apply for the $40,000 free from the provincial government and all this crap you can do. But if you go to the city and you do permits, it's probably what they want done, permits and time. It's probably a year, year and a half, plus 70, 80, all the way up to $150,000. Or you do it next weekend with your buddies, and you take no permits, and including the IKEA kitchen, you're into it for 10 to 15 grand. And your income starts rolling in the next day. Value-wise, it's probably not much different on the resale market because the income's there. The city's not going to shut them down.
Because it's still providing housing, so they kind of turn a blind eye, right?
And you can still get financing on it.
Yeah.
Some cities
you can get the financing if it's not legal.
Yeah, some cities used to really crack down on it, like Langley and Maple Ridge used to crack down. But the municipal governments right now, given the housing crisis, aren't interested in cracking down. So you go from like next week and I can have a house up for 15 grand and a rental going, or a year and a half and 150 grand I don't have. Which one are you going to pick? Right. So that's the problem. That's the issue that we have. And that's why now we're starting to see those things pop up everywhere. We're starting to see them in sheds. People are running a plumbing out through a shed in the backyard. Like we're starting to see them just everywhere because now it's become acceptable. And you can just jam them in wherever you want.
It's tough. All right. Here's where I want to wrap this up. It's not far enough along in the year yet for me and Steve to look over our predictions and see how wrong we were. But I do want to get wrong in a good way because the rate cuts we said were going to happen, they're more aggressive than we thought, I guess. I don't know if that's good because economy. But now let's look forward and just for a second here and talk about 2025. Just for a second. The last 2 years have not, sales volume wise, been good, right? Sure, we've had ups and downs. Some properties are good, some are bad, whatever. Do we think 2025 is just more of the same, or is there encouragement that, you know what? I'm not even talking about prices yet, but just like activity in the real estate market will return to 10-year levels. Not 2022, not 2021, but 2018, 2019. Could we see that again in 2025? Justin?
So, yeah, okay. First off, predictions. Yeah, I do the YouTube predictions too, and those are wild. 2 years ago, were we not all thinking rates were going to go down at the end of 2023, right?
Yeah, I said we'd have...
or start of 2024.
I think I said we'd have 2 rate cuts in 23 is what I said. My previous, which I was way off, obviously.
Yeah, but so I think, right, like the next 3 months to next 1 to 6 months, I actually think it's going to be like a hell of a time to buy just because there's so many factors that are coming into play right now so we're in a downward, like we're in a downward cycle with rates now. We know that. We know historically when rates go down, prices come up. We also have the amortization extending for first time buyers, which indicates that the government they know that they can't curb the pricing. So what all they're trying to do is make it easier to enter into the market instead of trying to adjust for the pricing. So they're even aware that these prices are going to go up. In my opinion, that's kind of how I view it. I think next year we're going to see it bounce back. Like a lot of people are predicting too, by the end of 2025, we could see prices back to close to the peak if these rates continue to go down.
I hope not. That would be so bad.
I read that in the Globe and Mail.
Who said that?
I don't know.
I probably know them too. No,
it wasn't your name in the Globe and Mail. Yeah.
No, that one wasn't me.
Yeah, no, but it's because I get it every morning, like 100-year-old man, and I read it. And so I think it's really going to pick up just because we're already starting to see that momentum, right? You don't know prices are going up until they start to go up. So people trying to time it, I think, is really the timing. If you don't buy in the next 3 months, I think the timing is going to bite you because it's going to be higher next year. We still don't have enough inventory overall. Like, I know we all see the same graphs because with Richard and stuff, right? We see the same sort of graphs with the historical, what's projected and all that. If the housing starts aren't there, we have the immigration coming in, we have the demand coming. There's only one way for it to go. Like, that's the very basics of any economics course, is the supply and demand. And when the supply is not there and the demand is increasing, prices are going to go up. And I think now people are starting to realize that, okay, rates are going down. We're scraping the bottom. Now we're going to start doing, like, this is the time to pull the trigger. And I honestly believe the next 3 months, up to 6 months, but I think the next 3 months is going to be a great opportunity.
If you take emotion out of it and just think like, okay, money is going to be cheaper to borrow. And with the new rules, I can borrow more of it. We don't have any self-control in Canada, and it's going to increase prices like it is. And you're probably right. Like, you look at the end of every year and in years that have upticks, and it's like, wow, wish I had bought then. Some people do it. Some people won't. Some people wait for prices to go down another 20%, and maybe it never happens. Or maybe they're right. I hope to God we're not back at peak 2022 by the end of 2025. I hope that's like not till 27, 28. Maybe that could potentially happen if we have some rise here. But that's just my opinion. Steve, wrap this up, man. Final thoughts.
You two have been pumping the market enough for me, so I don't need to get in here and pump anything more. Look at these realtors saying prices are about to go up. They're right to buy.
You're just happy.
Hey, buy what everybody. Warren Buffett. You got to buy what everybody else is selling, right? Sell what everybody else is buying. That's it. That's what he said, right?
Yeah.
Something along those lines.
I think we're probably, one thing I know is all my predictions happen way faster than I think they're gonna. That's one thing I'm seeing. So, like, rate cuts are coming down way faster than we thought. Probably going to only maybe even increase how fast they're coming down, which is crazy to me. Good timing for my mortgages. Thank you very much.
Brendan Augmanson, if you go back and listen to an early this year episode, almost is perfectly predicting exactly what is happening. And everyone was like, that's never going to happen. What he's saying is never good. He's almost bang on. He was aggressive. He's almost right on.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to go back and listen to that.
Maybe these economists know what they're talking about.
Yeah, well, maybe they do. Maybe they do.
All right. Justin, thanks for coming on. We'll put your information in the description for anyone to reach out looking in the Hamilton or Stony Creek areas. Anything you want to add before we wrap up?
No, that's it. Thanks for having me on. Steve, shave the mustache and take a shot at shaving the head too. Give that thing a clean buzz. I want to see it.
It's all right. You should start cheering for a better football team.
Oh, Ticats, get out of here.
Hey, at least the Ticats are a heck of a lot better than the Argos. What is
I don't even know anything about the Argos. I have no clue. I don't even know if they're on TV.
Yeah, if we don't win the season, just beating Toronto is like that's the win. That's victory.
One of my favorite tweets of all time, the last time the Argos won the whole thing, I don't even know when that was, said basically like, if the Argos end up winning tonight, expect traffic to be about the same. Thought that was kind of funny. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.